This is a battle cry for the American way of life and a relentless pursuit of truth and justice. It comes from a voice with unmatched experience and unyielding resolve. Join us as we dissect current events and tip the scales in your favor. This is Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
This is Bryan Rudnick, host of Rally for the Republic, today with a special guest, Kevin Jackson, who is CEO of the Black Sphere, otherwise known as the Kevin Jackson Network. He's also the host of the award-winning show, The Kevin Jackson Show. And Kevin, welcome to Rally for the Republic.
Thanks very much, Brian. Good to be with you, brother.
Appreciate you being on. For those who don't know, Kevin's a best-selling author, a TV host, political pundit, a nationally recognized speaker, a comedian, an all-around great patriotic American. Kevin, I know you for a lot of years, but the public does not, or at least the listeners here at Rally for the Republic. So why don't you tell them what you do other than hosting the Kevin Jackson Show?
Well, first of all, I'm really sad to hear that there's so many racists on your show that don't know who I am, Brian.
We're working on that. We're trying to teach them not to be Kamala supporters. So.
Right. So, if I were to summarize what I do and what I stand for in a nutshell, I would just tell people, as a former management consultant to the largest companies in the world, I look at what's the problem with conservatism, that we can't sell it. It's an easy sell. I mean, we're the happiest people on the planet. We're the most successful people. We earn our money. We don't get it gifted to us. We're the most philanthropic. We're the most loving, caring. We care about our families, our kids. Doesn't mean we don't go through the problems of humanity, but that's what it means to be a conservative. You appreciate your God. You appreciate your community. You appreciate your family, your friends, your businesses. Everything we do is what the left wants to be, and we can't sell that. And so I look at, well, what's destroyed that? Why we are not able to sell this amazing feeling that it means to be who we are, that everybody on the planet wants to come to America to be us. And it's very simple. They control academia, so they establish the minds. It doesn't matter what we teach our kids. When we turn them over to the left, they obliterate that beautiful mind that we've created, and they get us out of there. Look at corporate America, ESG, DEI, all these things. What is it meant to do? To destroy the beautiful thing that was built. Look at religion, what they've done to religion. They prostituted religion. Look at what they've done to the military. So when you think about what the left wants to do, they want chaos, they want destruction. And we've allowed it to occur because we say, well, don't talk about religion, don't talk about sex, don't talk about politics. And that's all they talk about. So it's our fault. And it takes the reason why I've addressed this through taking one of my companies public, the Flick Fest, which is to push back on Hollywood. I have a charity called seekingeducationalexcellence.org that does what? Puts meritocracy back into education to get rid of DEI and all that nonsense. I'm working with a group of people to do anti-DEI training for corporate America. Why? Because what is America's corporations have to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion? Walk into any company in America, and you know what you're going to see? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. With nobody having done a thing, that's the way corporations work. And somebody decided, oh, you know what? It's not black enough, brown enough, short enough, fat enough, ugly enough, gay enough, or something to start mess. That's what my brand is about, fighting against all the nonsense and doing it unapologetically and without fear.
So, Kevin, you obviously spent some time in corporate America, so you have some great insight into that. You've also got, as your bio says, 3 degrees in electrical engineering?
Electrical engineering, computer science, and math.
So you're a pretty analytical guy, a pretty educated guy, and you've been around these academics, so you know how woke they are.
Oh, yeah.
And how does somebody from your background, your website says that your mother unfortunately passed when you were only 5 and your father was an inmate at San Quentin prison. So how did you decide that you were a conservative, or what time in your life?
This is a decision. I don't know. Here's what I can tell you. So my mother passed away before I turned 5. You mentioned my dad was in prison. So my grandparents raised, when my mother remarried, my stepfather died. My mother died, and my grandparents wouldn't let us be raised by my stepfather. So they took my brother and I, they adopted us. And we grew up on a big cattle ranch, 25,000 acre cattle ranch, where they were the caretakers for a wealthy family. And what I can tell you is this, I don't know how when you become sentient and know who you are, but I know this happened to me. My grandparents were highly political. They watched when I say political, they didn't go to meetings and all that, but they watched it on TV. And they would watch this stuff. And I was a very smart little kid, bright kid. And I watched it and I would say, you like what they say, the Democrats, but you don't raise us that way. And I could see the disjoint, even as a kid. So at 8 years old, we were watching something, and I was arguing with my grandparents. I was going, that what that lady just said, it was Barbara Jordan. I said, what that lady just said is ridiculous. And they told me to shut up, and I would. I was like, no, they're not making sense, because it sounded very woe is me. And I go, you guys don't let me have that attitude. You tell me I got to be better. You tell me there's no excuses, and all these things. And now I'm hearing nothing but excuses come from Democrats. And then I heard Ronald Reagan speak when he had lost the first bid to be governor. And I remember saying to myself, he didn't lose. He just didn't win yet. And I thought that at 8 years old. It was a very adult way to think about it. And I know that's what I thought, because I remember it like it was yesterday. I saw him come on stage and say it. And I said, that's who I am. The guy that says, I didn't win yet. And so that's when I realized I'm not a Democrat. I didn't consider myself a Republican, but I knew I wasn't a Democrat. And that was sort of the genesis of what became me.
So could you have ever imagined seeing a president of the United States suffer from an attempted assassination attempt since the one on Reagan?
There are crazy people out there. And here's what I will tell you with respect to what's happening with President Trump. The Democrats have raised Americans to be hateful, divisive. Nobody critically thinks. In other words, I don't agree with Joe Biden. I think he's an idiot. I didn't agree with Barack Obama, who I refer to as baby black Jesus. But I will tell you, I don't have any animosity towards him. I just don't agree with him. And I don't agree when the government's out of control. And, I think that we need to do something at the ballot box, as long as we believe that the elections are fair, which I don't think they're fair. But we'll get to that another time. But here's what I'll tell you. Donald Trump's not in office. He's been in office and he did a great job. He had a couple of mistakes, one around COVID, the first one around selection of people to put around it, and the second around COVID. He worked around his employee issues, his staff issues.
Well, as he said, he fired them and Biden refuses to fire him.
Right. He fired them or they quit, and for whatever reason they're gone, and that's that. But in COVID, he mishandled, and I think he would admit that if he would get him aside. But he's not in charge now. And for people to want to kill him tells you all you need to know. It tells you that the Democrats have, and by the way, this is true when you look at how black people view white people, how the LGBT community views the non-LGBT community, what I call the not gays, which I'm a proud not gay member. But, it's all spite. If you don't agree with me, my lifestyle, my politics, my whatever, it isn't just enough for me to say we disagree, which is what conservatives are. I disagree with the gay lifestyle, but if you want to live it, it's okay. I happen to like women. I don't like men. So, but if you do, I think it's freaky. I think it's against nature. Some people would argue it's against God. I'm not going to go that far. I think it's freaky because I watch nature. I'm a martial artist. I train watching. I'm very observant. And so when you look at what we do, we go, if you want to do something crazy, it's fine, but I'm not going to be mad at you, and I'm not going to try to kill you or stop you or whatever. They want us stopped. And I have a reason I believe they do, Brian. I think it's pure jealousy. If you cannot achieve what we achieve, which the only way you can become self-actualized, to use Maslow's theory, hierarchy of needs, the only way you can become self-actualized is you have to really come to grips with who you are. When you are a leftist, you lie to yourself daily. You cannot be a leftist and think, I'm telling you the truth. A leftist will look at the way I raise my kids, 3 magna cum laude graduates from their colleges and a 4th getting ready to go to college. And they say, I wish my kids were like that versus what their kids are. Now, I'm not telling you we don't have our problems as conservatives, but I'm saying we have a way of doing things that makes sense. My fun phrase to use with leftists is pedophiles don't make good babysitters. Okay. So if you want to understand it in a nutshell, we believe that's what the average conservative would tell you. I don't want a pedophile babysitting my kids, but the left will protect that pedophile. They will fight for his or her rights. And that's the difference. So they understand our logic, but they don't want to apply it. And that's why they can never become self-actualized. Jung's theory is we all have these two beings inside of us, the yin and the yang of who we are. I promise you, tell me somebody, tell me, Kevin, this guy's a pacifist. I tell you, no, it's just a guy that hasn't been put in a position to have to kill. He's not a pacifist. He lives his life as a pacifist. He wants to be a pacifist, but he hasn't been put in a position to kill, because I can put him in a position where he will lose his passivity, okay? That's the difference in us. We understand that, yes, this is the life I lead. This is the Kevin Jackson you see. Hit my kid and watch what I do. Watch what I become. This smile goes off my face, and I will rip your head off your shoulders. And that is to understand the duality of man. So that, I think, is the problem the leftists have, is that they want to be us and they can't.
Yeah, and it's interesting. They've been using January 6th now for the longest time to try to claim that all of us right-leaning conservative
election deniers, Brian.
Yeah. So, we're all evil. We're all the devil. Every one of us looks like the guy with the horns walking through the Capitol.
Yep.
Right. But I think the Trump campaign did a great job yesterday when they put out that long press release of all the statements by Kamala Harris and Maxine Waters. And even Kamala made it clear in one of her recent statements, it's up to the American people to stop him. She didn't qualify how to stop him. Well, and I know, as I brought up on yesterday's episode, she didn't put out a statement, saying, let's get rid of the guns. This kind of violence is bad. No, nothing like she had done 2 weeks ago with the Georgia school shooting. It was, you took a shot at my political opponent. Oh, violence is bad. Move on.
Right. Well, first of all, let me say this. You sent me a clip of your show, and I want to say this to your audience. It was really insightful, and I hope that the show continues to grow, because it's rare, and I don't want to make this sound cocky, but it's rare that I learn from other people in terms of politics. And I will tell you, I was very, very pleased to learn things from your show. And that's always, to me, knowledge is power. So I want to give you a shout out for that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And going back to the comment, look, the left are evil. That's essentially what I told you. Our politics differ from theirs. I don't know one single conservative who wants to hurt a leftist over their politics. I don't know one. But I can tell you this. I've met leftists who would absolutely not waste 1 second in putting a bullet in my head because of what I think. I have had more death threats, especially early on, and people that wanted to fight me over my politics when I was on Fox. And before I got on Fox, I was on MSNBC and CNN. I got times 10 the number of death threats. And my wife would get upset with me because I'd stay up at night responding back saying, where do you want to meet? Because I promise you, the person who's going to die is not me. And so she would get upset but I told her, I said, look, I've got to respond back to these people because they're evil. And if they think that I'm going to take it, it'll get worse. And that's what we're seeing right now. They want to blame. I mean, look at the number of media outlets, Brian, that have talked about Donald Trump brought this on himself. How?
Right.
So I guess Donald Trump brought the 93 indictments on himself, right? He brought the Russian collusion lie on himself. He brought the Ukrainian extortion on himself that led to 2 failed impeachments. And I could go on. Look, they start this mess, and then they get mad at us because we decide we're going to fight back. And that's the problem. That, to me, the biggest problem we have as Americans is we are not willing to say, they want us to say, oh, well, yeah, there's bad rhetoric on both sides. No, there's not. The demons, the people that are trying to position us as being the mean-spirited, evil people, the people that beat up Jussie Smollett, as it turns out, it was Jussie Smollett's people. That's what they want us to believe that we are. And they know we're not. They know. Yeah,
here in South Florida, the Sun Sentinel, which is the liberal rag covering most of this Tri-County, West Palm to Fort Lauderdale, North Miami area, they last week put out an editorial position that there's an election denier running to be supervisor of elections here in Palm Beach County. And they refused to print his public statement that they were printing for all other candidates and all other races, because they thought that he was peddling lies. So the so-called, intelligentsia, protector of free speech, protector of all things democracy, right, decided that it was their right to censor him because they didn't agree with it.
Yeah, well, what they don't agree with is this truth. See, here's what I'm going to say to your audience, and I guarantee you this is a fact. They cheated in 2020 to get Joe Biden into office. Now, that's a bad thing to say. That will definitely make sure that there's no coverage of this particular. Sorry, Brian, I'm going to make sure you get shadow banned. But it happens to me every day. I am a proud election denier. You know why? Because I'm a logistician by training, electrical engineering, computer science, and math. I know how to look at the logic of a situation and say, this doesn't jive. Well, it didn't jive with Joe Biden. He did get 81 million votes. Trump got the most votes you could get for a sitting president, and he won the election. And now all the subterfuge is around how do we convince these critical thinkers like Kevin Jackson and Bryan Rudnick and many others? How do we convince you that your belief in what led you to the truth is a lie, and what we're telling you is the truth, which we know it's a lie? And that's what all this orchestration is about. So the Sentinel and all of these other people, all the people that are, Donald Trump is saying this or that. You watch the one moderator at the debate literally fact check Donald Trump on his own opinion. So if that doesn't just tell all, you get it. Right. So the fact is they cheated in the election, and they want to do it again, and they will do it every single time. They've been doing it for many elections. And what they don't want us to understand is we don't live in a constitutional republic. We don't even live in a democracy. We live in a plutocracy where a few people govern us. They want us to believe that we're playing the game, but in fact, there's nothing here. We're just pawns in the game.
Well, as you know, this show is dedicated to saving our republic. That's why we're rallying. And we're going to take it back. And I remind the audience here every day at Rally for the Republic, it's their job to fight back. That you and me cannot do it alone, right? So that's why they need us educating them and giving them the information they're not hearing everywhere else. So one of the things I wanted to bring up with you is I like to talk about how Kamala is running around professing to be a cop. Every time she tells everybody she's a cop, I remind people I'm a Calvin Klein underwear model. And as you know, I don't look like one, nor have I ever, not even in my best of times. So you've produced this movie years ago called Bleeding Blue, and that's when you and I first met. And you were promoting that when Kamala was running around promoting the defund agenda, but forgot to be a cop back then. Could you give everybody some insights into the movie and then your thoughts on Kamala running around as a cop?
Sure. Well, the movie was made in response to Barack Obama going into Ferguson, Missouri, and accusing all these people of being racist. And it turns out that the chief at the time, the police chief, was a friend of mine. And he's not a racist. In fact, he's an amazing guy. And they made this little sleepy town that's 68% black. They had a white police chief who happened to be from there. He retired from running the drug force in St. Louis to become this little town cop. And it becomes the epicenter for all these politics and these lies. So now I'll just say this about the movie, which you can see at bleedingbluemovie.com. It's a spectacular film that showcases the lies that were told not only about policing in Ferguson, which we give you some things you've never heard before, directly from the horse's mouth, but also policing in general and how this, kabuki theater of the leftism around cops and this idea that cops are running around killing black people willy-nilly is just complete farce. So that's number one. With respect to Kamala Harris, this is prototypical, quintessential Democrats, where this is a woman who has been a staunch, she's done things to people, not because she's looking at it from a legal perspective. There's a video of her talking about the power of her office. You should see it. She talks about being able to literally point a finger at somebody and ruin their lives, and then 2 weeks later, pretend it never happened. And that's what she is. She said, let me just say this, and this is going to be the most controversial thing that I'll say on your program, and I'm proud to say it. Never, repeat, never let a black leftist woman be in charge of anything. Fonnie Willis, Letitia James, Michelle Obama, and currently Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris laughed as she tried to ruin the life of Justice Judge Kavanaugh. Now, I want to make the statement about what Donald Trump should do to fight back against her, and he could have done this in the debate, because she claims to be for law and order and the whole deal. And what Donald Trump should have said when she accused him of being a racist is, you know what, Kamala Harris, I freed 20,000 people in the First Step Act, which was mostly blacks. You have probably put that many in prisons in California for what you went on a show and bragged about, which is smoking marijuana. Now, I don't think I'm as racist as you are. You look at yourself for racism. Now, if he says something like that, it not only highlights her record as a prosecutor who not only puts away black people, but mostly black men. She had a thing for black men. And there's a guy, forget his name, he's a rapper. He says she literally laughed at his sentencing hearing where he was accused of a crime he didn't commit, got sent to prison for life. 5 years later, they found out he hadn't done it. And she laughed at his hearing. So that's Kamala Harris's history when it comes to, being the top cop and then defunding the police, siding with criminals when they burned down Minneapolis and setting up bail funds. That's what she's about. And let me tell you, the impact in the black community, I'm going to make you one other bet. Donald Trump will get the most black vote since Eisenhower.
You are listening to Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
So prior episodes, we've had guests who predicted it would be about 30% of black votes.
That's what I say.
Okay.
30%, which is the highest that it has been. I mean, Donald Trump got, what's funny, Donald Trump got supposedly 12% of the black vote in 2020. That's generally enough to win any election. Because when they tell you, you get 8%, they expect between 6 to 8. You get above 8%, and then it's tough on Democrats. Donald Trump got 12% of the black vote in the last election, and he lost. So that's already bad. He will get minimum of 20. That's what other people are saying. But I predict he'll get 30.
So, Kamala's spending a lot of time playing up race. And they're upset that Donald Trump addresses it too. And since you and I are here, we're looking at each other in video, but the audience is only going to hear the audio today. Could you just self-identify so I don't give the audience the wrong impression about your race? So they will understand where your racist thoughts come from?
Yeah, I'm a binary lesbian. Non-white. I had a speech I did one time and I gave my description. I wish I could remember it now. But here's the thing. I'm a black man. And
but you're inclusive.
What's that?
But you're very inclusive.
Oh, I'm totally inclusive. Yeah. So in speaking about these issues, I'm speaking from the standpoint of being a black male, and I don't know what the earlier question, but and how it fits into this. But for the audience's position, understand this. I understand the black condition. Brian already gave you a little tidbit of my life, but I don't think that my life is a black life per se. My mother died before I turned 5. You know what? That's happened to a lot of non-black kids. My father was in prison. You know what? That's happened to a lot of non-black kids. Now, did both those things happen at the same time? Maybe not. I get my intersectionality gets smaller when you figure out, okay, Kevin's mother died before he turned 5. His dad was a black man in prison. It gets even more intersectional when you say, oh, did you know my dad was a member of the Black Panthers back in the 1960s? Okay, a little more narrowing down of the group. But at the end of the day, it's a human condition. And it's made me think about who I am in a very different way. But those weren't the things that defined me. What defined me was growing up around predominantly living on a 25,000-acre cattle ranch and living a rich life, a wealthy person's life, having access to all the toys of this wealthy family, but still realizing I was poor and understanding that there was more in life out there for me, and having grandparents that valued real education, not social justice degrees, but go get a degree that you can actually use, and then parlaying that information into becoming one of the preeminent management consultants in America, if not the world, and then translating that information to become one of the most prolific political pundits in the world, if I can do a little bit of bragging. And so that's my black experience. And as far as Kamala's black experience goes, I'll be honest with you, I don't care. I'm like Donald Trump. Is she Indian? Is she black? What he was pointing out is she's not. She's who she needs to be in front of an audience. When Donald Trump when he was with the National Black Journalist, National Association of Black Journalists. He didn't come
One of his best interviews ever, I think.
It was absolutely stellar. But here's Donald Trump, and he goes in there and he's like, hey, where's Kamala? She's not here. When he said to that lady, look, I'm going to talk to you. You were late. So I'm going to finish saying what I want to say. But he didn't put on an accent. He didn't put on some new sort of jive, where he walked in like he was walking like he was coming from Superfly. He's Donald Trump.
He owned the room. He owned the room. He owned that interview. He put that reporter in her place.
Absolutely. But you know what he didn't ask? Donald freaking Trump. He didn't try to become Kamala Harris is different when she talks to the black journalists. Well, she didn't go to that, but she talked to the NAACP the other day. She was like, hey, y'all, sister girl, hey, y'all. And then she goes in front of a white audience and she's, Miss Kamala pretending to live in the white world. But she's in front of an Indian audience. She adopts that accent. French people, she adopts a French she doesn't know who she is. Yeah. So when Trump was asking the question, he was making a very simple point. I'm who I am. When I get in front of you, I'm who I am. And let me tell you, I talk about this on my radio show, Bryan, the psychology of who we are friends with. You want to know why you and I are closer friends than other people? It's because we know about each other. I'm not going to get into some of the personal things we discussed, but I know about some of the things going on in your life, and you know mine. The reason why you chose your mate is because at some point, of all the women that you could have chosen, and Bryan, you're a specimen, so you had a few choices. You chose the woman that you decided to let know who you really are. That's how I chose my wife. That's how I really just adopted the Flintstones method. I want to be clear about that. Right. Just hit him in the head.
But let me actually get back to the main theme I wanted you to touch on. You touched on a lot of it, but Kamala's playing up who she needs to play up in front of each audience, like you explained. And she's trying to make sure that Black America is almost guilted into voting for her, is what it seems like from my perspective.
Sure.
What say you?
Well, of course, that's what the Democrats, what did Joe Biden say? You ain't black unless you vote for me. Yeah. So there's going to be a contingent of blacks to do that. But here's what I want to let people know. They can feel a little bit of comfort in. Donald Trump has reached deeper into the black psyche than any modern day Republican. Donald Trump, the persecution of Trump by the Democrats has led black people, particularly black men, to go, man, I can relate to this brother right here. And even black women, and I'm going to tell you can go do man on the street interviews. There's been dozens of them, if not hundreds. And the black vote, people are saying Kamala's a fake. These are women. And black men, even women, though, are saying Kamala's a fake. She's not truly black. She's a fraud in the black community. And it doesn't help that she's married to Doug Emhoff, who's about the whitest dude you can imagine, and she picked Tim Walz, who is the second most whitest guy on the planet. So the black community is not responding well to her, and that's part of the reason why the Democrats are going to lose a lot of the black vote. Sadly, it's not going to be even more because there's still too much muscle memory of relying on the government to take care of your ills. Number one, and number two, the amazing amount of propaganda that's anti-Trump. Trump's racist. He's this. I've had people tell me Donald Trump's racist, and I'm like, really? So do you know him? No, I go, well, I know him. I've been with him multiple times. And yeah, I can tell you this, he's not a racist. Now, you don't have to believe me, but I don't know many racists who know me by name, who've called me out in meetings. Kevin, get up here. Come here. Do this. Hey, come on. Hang out. I don't know many racists that do that. Now, you can take or leave that. This is what I say to black people. You can take or leave that. You can believe what somebody tells you. You believe a black man who's been around the guy. So, but look, we're not going to change politics to that level in this cycle. But Donald Trump's done more than anybody to make a difference.
I always think back to his speech at was the first race. What was it? Flint, Michigan or Detroit? He went and said, you can't do any worse.
Yeah,
give Trump a chance. What do you get to lose, right? And we know he's out of office. And are they really going to hear it? I mean, how are they going to get this message?
They're getting
They're getting it just watching Kamala?
No, not look. The reason why Donald Trump is getting through to the black community is very simple. This is a billionaire white man, Republican, who is a success in business, a success in TV, and a whole other field of business, if you will, and then a success in politics. And in the Black community, this guy's being targeted by a system. Black folks can relate to that. They're like, man, we used to think, and I'm not one of them, but I'm telling you what, it was, we say, your cousin them. Think about this. The average Black person used to think this is just the system beating up on Black folks. The targeting by Garland and Joe Biden and Obama and all this of Donald Trump, the lies that are being told, this is the system that is only for Black folks. And then they find out they will do this to a successful white Republican man. That exposed the system. So that's what got the Black male vote to come over dramatically. And then as that started to happen, and I can give you a lot, we have to have a lot more show for me to go into more detail, but the Black women start to take notice, and you're starting to see that shift come over.
And then they're shooting at them, and I think that's getting them a lot of independent Democrat votes to cross over.
Yeah. Now, and so then they want to take him out, and brothers are like, man, they doing drive-bys on Donald. So now he's become iconic in the Black community as a person who's going against the struggle, who's part of the struggle. And that's where the Democrats screwed up. If they had left this man alone, man, about 2.5 years ago when I went to a rally for Trump here in Arizona, there were about 3,000 people there. You could drive your car right up and park. There was no waiting in lines, nothing. Donald was on his way down. Then they started with the courts. And once they got it into the criminal justice system, and brothers went, man, they're prosecuting that white man in the same way they do us. Trump exploded. 100,000 people in New Jersey, 30,000 people in the Bronx wanted to see this brother. Black people in New York, I've heard it with my own ears saying, man, shoot, I'd go to a Donald Trump rally out for Trump. Brothers on top of brothers that go to the basketball court. I've spoken to them myself. Put a microphone in front of their face. Trump, dude. One guy actually said this. He said, Kay, you ain't gonna find very many Kamala supporters up in here, bro. It's like, really? So it's a whole different ballgame.
Great. So let's change the topic a little bit because we're less than 50 days from the election. The left, of course, thinks that we're all going to be election deniers on November 6th, and they're very much up in arms. The Washington Times published an article about Florida, Michigan, Ohio, some other states that are removing the non-citizen voters from their rolls. They've come to admit it in several states. The left, of course, thinks that we're doing something nefarious. You've been involved in, as you like to call it, election denying. I'll call it truth seeking. What are your thoughts about what's going on, in these cleansing of the election rolls?
Well, look, it's election integrity. You would think that everybody wants a fair election. If you lay the rules out and you say, look, I think it makes sense that we give dead people off of the voter rolls. Would anybody disagree with this? And of course,
and it was tough for a while. Most people don't realize that our supervisor of elections offices, our states, secretary of states, weren't even bumping the voter registration rolls against the Social Security Administration's database that listed who was dead.
The point is, we can all agree that dead people theoretically can't vote, so they should be removed. Democrats don't want to remove. That tells you all you need to know. We can all agree that if we got Daffy Duck and Mickey Mouse and, the whoever on the voter rolls, they're probably fake. We need to look into it and make sure they're legit, get them off. We probably mostly would agree that only citizens should be voting in our elections. At least certainly conservatives believe that. Here's what I'd say. I don't care whether I was a Republican or a Democrat. I don't want a non-citizen voting in an election, and here's what I can tell you very, very clearly. If 20 million illegals crossed this border and you knew they were going to vote Republican, I guarantee you Joe Biden would have vetoed the bill that would allow illegals to vote in our elections. But because they know what they're doing, they're setting this up, they don't want to do it. Well, how could you possibly go against anything that I just said there using common sense? So election integrity is a critical thing. And the only group fighting for real election integrity are the conservatives and the Republicans. The Democrats are doing everything they can to make these elections unfair. Look at what Act Blue is doing with donations. They got old people that are giving $200,000-$300,000 and they're going, I'm not even worth that much. No investigation. If that were happening with us, there'd be a full-blown investigation. So the question we should be asking ourselves is, why aren't the Republicans on our side? And I love Jim Jordan and James Comer and those guys. But why aren't they fighting as hard for us as the left seems to be fighting for the lies, for the lack of election integrity? I'm an election denier for a very simple reason. I know they're cheating, and I'm a proud election denier because I'm one of the guys working very diligently through my organizations to get to the bottom of this. I want fair elections for everybody. If a Democrat wins an election, so be it, man. California's probably going to win. But if a Republican...
And I think it's the city of Oakland, California, that allows non-citizens to vote.
There's so many. And this idea that we have sanctuary cities and we've got, amnesty for people that have come over and just flooding killing every segment of society. Schools are impacted. The welfare system's impacted. The justice system's impacted. People's lives are being changed over these people. I mean, Aurora, Colorado is one example. Springfield, Ohio is another, but there are dozens of examples, and they're growing, and this is applied by the Democrats. Notice where they're putting these people. They take a city like Springfield, put a third, 20,000 Haitians on a town of 40, 50,000 people. Who can absorb that? You don't have 20,000 houses or apartments built for that. Your infrastructure's nowhere close, nowhere ready for that. So
I bet if Donald Trump said he was worried about saving those cats and dogs so they could vote, that'd be a different issue.
Oh, absolutely.
Democrats wouldn't have been up.
And on that subject, they want to ridicule that Donald Trump for what has already been in the news, that people are wondering what's happening to their pets. They always want to make the lie the truth. And to what end? What I would love to put a crystal ball in front of the leftists to say, here's the world you would build if we let you build it. Is this the world you want? But we don't have that crystal ball. The only thing we have is our ability to fight them. And that's why Rally for the Republic is important, because this is a wake-up call to people to say, look, this isn't about winning versus losing in an election cycle. This is a true assault on your culture and the sensibilities of being an American citizen. And I always equate it to this. If you want to push me, bump me, I got no problem with it. I might even say excuse me. But if you push or bump my kid, I'm going to hurt. If I think you did it intentionally, the Republic is our child. And it's being it's not just being pushed and bumped. It's getting brutalized, beat down. And we've got to do something about it.
You are listening to Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
So, Kevin, do you have any tips you can give the Rally for the Republic audience for what they should be looking for to help protect our elections? Other than voting for Donald Trump and good conservative candidates?
What I would say to most people is this. You got to get involved. And you hear this, well, Kevin, where do I get involved? The first thing you do is you support shows like this. So Bryan's going to need an audience. He wants a voice. He deserves a voice. Support his show. If I say something on this show that resonates with you, support my show. Find out where to get a hold of me. It's a click of a button sometimes, but those little bitty clicks add up to the money that we make for doing this. The second part is donate and support it. If Bryan's show is looking for donors to help him keep that show going, if you like what you see, you got to support it, because the Democrats are going to steal your money and they're going to give it to the things that they want to give it to. So why not support the things you're for? And I do like me. I mean, this is my backstage club shirt. People don't know I'm wearing it because they don't see it, but wear who you're about. I wear Trump gear everywhere I go. And you know what I get? I get thumbs up. I get a few meme mugs every now and then, but I want that because I want them to know I'm a proud Trump supporter. So you do that and be vocal about what you stand for. Especially, I'm not talking about at the job or whatever, but if you're at the water cooler, somebody's talking at a bank line and you're waiting in line and they say, I love Kamala Harris. And you go, what for? Why would you love her? Engage with these people. I engaged with one of my childhood friends who joked with me and said, Kevin, can you give me tickets to Kamala's inauguration? And at the end of that conversation, I swear to God, she said this. She said, Kevin told me some things about Kamala Harris that made me think. That's what you've got to do. Don't be afraid to espouse your views and put them out there. Don't worry about your social media page. If you dump some people off of Facebook, be thankful that you got rid of the chumps that were on your page. But be who you are. Be genuine and live that, because that's what the Democrats can't be. They wake up every morning upset at themselves because they went to bed a fraud, and they wake up a fraud.
Kevin, what do you believe is the biggest threat to our republic today?
The leftists, the Democrats, being in control of anything is the biggest threat to our republic. A Democrat, Adam Schiff is an evil man. Nancy Pelosi is an evil woman. Chuck Schumer, I can go down the list. And it's not my conjecture. This is a very studied individual telling you these are evil people. Evil people should not be put in a position of power. It is a very difficult thing to give man the ring to use Lord of the Rings as an example. It's very difficult to do that because too many people are willing to take advantage of it. That's why Donald Trump is so important, that you can tell this is a man who could go away and lead a much easier life. All those indictments would go away in a whisper if Donald Trump got out of this race. And he still fights. He's been shot at now twice, or once for sure, and once they were going to shoot at him again. And he's still in this race. That's the guy you want, because he's saying it's not about money. This is about saving a republic. And I'm going to tell you, you and me, Bryan, I've known you, you know me. This isn't about us getting, in fact, I'll be brutally honest with your audience. If I wanted to be filthy, stinking rich, I can leave this program and within a month, my bank account would be flush with cash. All I have to do is renounce who I am. And the Democrats would come over and embrace me, and I'd be bigger than Van Jones, and every other black leftist you've ever met, and rolled into one. But I've decided that I will stand on the side of principle. That's why I got fired from Fox. I stood with principle. We need principle in our corner. And the people listening to us, you're people of principle. I know you are.
So I wanted to just have you finish one thought you mentioned earlier, when it comes to the election on November 5th, and people want to go watch the ballots being counted and things like that. Are there any particular anomalies you think they should be looking for?
Well, so what happened when we were watching it live on the TV before, if an election, it only should go up. They're counting the number of votes as they come in. It's supposed to be tied directly to the tabulation system. It should never go backwards. It should watch it going backwards. The other thing is, I know Team Trump, I'm involved in election integrity issues all around the country. They have lawyers at the ready. They have people ready to people to go to the precincts to be involved, hundreds of thousands. So if you want to be one of those folks, get involved in that way. The other thing is, I just would tell you, make sure you're registered. My wife, we were going somewhere, we looked, and there were 2 names on her registration because we checked her registration. We immediately contacted the Secretary of State and got this other guy off of her driver's license. I don't know how, and the guy was a registered Democrat because they were going to try to steal her vote. So make sure your vote is in your name. And I'm going down there with my form. I want to see it get registered. And I do it every time. I'm not going to mail it in or anything like that. I want to make sure mine gets registered.
Yeah, the post office isn't even sure they could get them there on time.
Right.
They're already admitting that.
Exactly. But just stand firm and look, we're on the side of righteousness. And I started the show by saying, how is it we can't sell who we are? Conservatism. Look, I'm not a party. I'm not going to go out and get drunk and throw up with you in the middle of the street. But I'm a fun guy to hang around. I promise you, if we get together, you're going to say, I want Kevin back at my party. And it isn't because I got drunk and acted a fool and did all this leftist stuff. It's because I'm going to engage with you and get to know who you are. And we're going to have a lot of fun together, fellowshipping on things that really mean stuff. I'm not going to talk about your $50,000 watch or how fast your car goes or how big your house is. I'm going to find out about you, the things that really matter. And that's what we're about as human beings. And it's funny to me, Bryan, every time leftists come over and hang out with conservatives and they find out we're not vile people, watch these videos where a leftist will come over, I'm a Kamala supporter, and people go, well, hey, come on in and maybe you'll learn a couple things. We'll bring you in here. Is it safe? Oh, it's very safe. Come on in. You're with us. And then go over to the other side and tell them you're a Trump supporter and watch those videos. Watch the level of hatred and vitriol that's on the other side. See, we're on the side of righteousness. And that's why I can have this big old beautiful smile every day when I get up, because I know that the person I went to sleep as is the same person I woke up as. And I have no apologies for what my life is and how I'm living my life as a failed person, undeserving of the grace of God that I get every single day. But I do what I can. I do my best. And so do you and many of the people listening to this program.
Kevin, what can the Rally for the Republic audience do to help support you in some of these great endeavors you have going?
I I just tell you, go to the website, the kevinjacksonnetwork.com. And if you're wanting to help my charity, if you're a donor that wants to get a tax deduction, go donate to that. Meritocracy Back in Schools. We help at-risk kids get out of their bad situations. It's high touch. We do one kid at a time. We got a bunch of kids going to Hillsdale.
You're going to put the government out of business, Kevin. What are you doing?
I wish I could. I wish I had the Soros kind of money to do that. The other one is we're about to IPO the Flick Fest, so watch for that. It's a $100 minimum investment, but it's an SEC IPO for going after Hollywood with movie makers that make good quality, wholesome entertainment, etc. And then listen to my radio show. If you haven't, it's at kjradio.com. It's much of the conversation that Bryan and I have had here. It's maybe a little funnier at times, but that's what I do. And I think you'll find it very irreverent, but very insightful. So, but get involved in whatever way. And it could be something where you just click a button, download the show, or it could be, you know what, Kev, I like what you're doing. We're going to donate money to help the cause. Those are the ways you help.
Well, Kevin Jackson, host of the Kevin Jackson Radio Show, thank you so much for being on Rally for the Republic. I think you lived up to the hype that I made sure to promote to the audience. I really appreciate that. Very special guest. I appreciate you being with us here.
Well, yeah, man, again, congratulations on the show. And I want to say one more time to the audience, I've listened to Bryan's show. Go back and whoever he's had on it, go listen because they are very insightful. And I learn a lot. I want to listen to the program. So I hope some people learn some stuff here too. And I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you, Kevin. I think they've learned a lot. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining us on Rally for the Republic, where we are fighting for America's future. Visit 1776coalition.com. Rally for the Republic podcast is available on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and download. Join Bryan Rudnick next time as we continue to fight for the American way of life and challenge the hypocrisy. This is Rally for the Republic.